a better video, and why don't I just redo that and make a short video to help that guy out. I'll tag him in this. Um, so he was saying that he's stitching 2 layers of 7 ounce. So I grabbed 2 layers of 7/8 ounce and stuck them together. I did a little test run to make sure that it was functioning before I did this. I got 2 different bright color threads on there, so you can see my green is going to be my bobbin side, the orange is going to be the top side. So there's a couple of different ways you can do a back stitch to start with. The easiest way to do it is to turn your barrel around so your foot is facing away from you, and then load your material. I like to grab my threads and have them backwards, pulled towards me, so that the top thread is not being held down by the foot. It just kind of comes out through the bottom right there, and it's not being held by anything. It's just kind of free to roll. And then I'll kind of grab it with this entire hand, so the material's being held by my hand as well as the threads. And then I'll bring the needle down to it to make sure I got its placement correct. Let me see. Make sure the thread doesn't get grabbed by the foot, but it's still nice and loose, and it's pulled back opposite direction of the foot. Then I'll run it through. I try to do 3 to 4 stitches in the first go at it. This time I'll do 4. And then what I like to do, depending on what I'm working with, if I'm working with something that's going to have a side that's not going to be seen a lot, if there's a side that is seen a lot, not seen a lot, I'll stop right there and I'll kind of lift it a little bit, and I'll grab that bottom thread and I'll give it a little tug. You see the top thread pops through right there. And I'll grab something like a pick, and I'll grab that and pull it through so they're both on the bottom side. What that does is when you get to where you go to snip your threads and melt them down, or however you want to fix them, then it's cleaner looking on the side that's going to be seen the most. And then from there, turn my drum around. Well, I have little marks on here. A lot of people don't understand that the position of the drum changes your stitch length. Sorry, my hand keeps getting in the way there. The position of the drum changes your stitch length. I have marks on both sides of my drum, but only one mark right here. So this rotating bezel right here, there's a mark that matches it. And then when I flip it around this way, I have another mark that I line up. That's exactly 180 degrees, and the stitch length is the exact same in those 2 positions. And yeah, I did have to take my this ring right here is what adjusts your stitch length, right? I did have to take that, and I bent it just a tiny bit to make it more flat to the machine. That was something I did when I first got the machine. It's actually something I forget I ever did, to be honest. But what I like to do at this point, I'll grab these and I'll just keep them off to the side. I usually tend to go away from the machine with them. And then I just run my stitch. Come on, don't break on me now. And I try to not run through the other stitch, run through the thread. I try to go just off to the side of the thread that's already going through there, just in case. I mean, why not, right? I have broken it hundreds of times, and it makes you really frustrated. It's just not fun. All right, so say I want to end my stitch. I want to do a back stitch the other direction at the end of it. I already got my 2 threads pulled out through the bottom. I will rotate my drum It's the 180 degrees the other direction. And I will do my 4 stitches, and I'll still try to line it up so that the needle doesn't go through the previous thread. So there's 4 stitches. Now, I still got the foot down, still got the needle down right here. For some reason, my habit is I will put my slack in the line right now. But I shouldn't do that. It's not, it makes it loose down here, and you don't like that. So get that needle out, then bring your slack in. What I like to do is I just grab right here after the tensioner, and I just kind of slide it down, and I usually go to the bottom of the bar. That's just the habit that I built. And then I make sure the handle is just past 12 o'clock. I lift my foot, and I lift up just a little bit. Let me show you here. So I got 1 thread out the top now. Here's what the back looks like. All right, and so what I'm gonna do, because if I wanted all 4 threads to be on the back side, so that I can melt them all down, I'll grab this green thread that I finished, the bobbin side. I'll give it a little tug to get that slack from the top thread through there, and I'll yank that thread through. Then you got all 4 threads on one side, and none on this side, and it looks pretty clean. It looks pretty good. Nice and tight. Worked out. And I nip them off. Oh, man, I can't find that camera. I just nip them off, and then I melt them down. I keep a lighter right here. So that's the primary way you can use these machines to do a back stitch. It's really easy. There is another way of doing it too, which is turning your material. A lot of people don't like turning their material. So basically, I load my material in backwards. I'm sorry, I keep getting my hand in the way. If I was heading this way to get my start, if I say I had my point right here where I wanted to turn around at, I'll start about 4 stitch lengths away, 3 to 4 stitch lengths away from where I want it. I'll get the needle down to where I want it. Make sure the thread's where I want it. Put the foot down, and I'll go ahead and start going. When you're turning your material, if you want to be able to take your hands off the machine, by the way, and you want your foot to stay up at that about 7 to 7:30 position, there's a point in the cams that kind of hold the wheel for you. It's a good thing to know if you're in a hurry or you're just not paying attention. It's a spot where you can stop and nothing's going to move. I like to turn my material counterclockwise. I don't know why. It's just my better luck direction. If I go clockwise, I snap it almost every time. If I go counterclockwise, it works. So I'll tug this through because this is what I like to do. You don't have to do it this way. You can leave the thread on the top if you want. That's just the way I like it. And continue on. The squeaking is not the machine. It is lube. It is the speedy stitcher I put on here. Squeaks really bad. Just thought you might want to know that. So right here, this is the end. Lift the foot. I get about that 7:30 position. Turn it around 180 clockwise or counterclockwise, and then do my back stitch. Get the needle out, give myself the slack, put the foot up, drag it out. Yeah, it runs pretty good for me. A lot of practice. So here you go. Here's the one I just did. It looks almost the same. So either way, you're getting the same result. It just depends on what you want to do. Oh, these little boxes right here, I just threw those on there to hook these two together. I didn't want any glue in there this time. I seem to be having bad luck. Yeah, the lighting, half this lighting was just in my machine. I have poor eyes. Thanks, Chris. And then I got this camera thing my wife had. Helps out. So this is what I didn't show you the backside. That's the backside, all four threads coming through. There you go. Sorry about my hands keep getting in the way when I'm down here trying to show you guys things. What else can I show you? I had a guy ask me about taking turns and going around corners and things like that. So I don't know if I can get this in there, but you see these scratch lines that I put in here? I put one right here. It's a corner, a slope, and then a corner comes down to another corner. I'm gonna go ahead and run that so I can show him how I do that. It's pretty simple. I'm not gonna do any back stitch or anything on it. I'm just gonna show him the corner. So normally this machine has a table. I have a table that I put on here, but it's just in the way right now. So there we go. I get my thread in the direction I want. Put the material in there. Get that thread around the back. Bring my needle down to where I want it. Re-pull my thread again because it always pops down where I don't want it. Put the foot down. First stitch. Let me get up to the corner and I'll start again. Now, when you say you're getting to a corner, and say your corner is this far away, but your stitch length doesn't give you an even amount in there. So what I like to do is say if it's an area where I could get 2.5 stitches before I get to the corner, I will go ahead and cut that into 2. What I do is I will get my needle out with my foot down. I will get the needle to the point where it is coming down and the foot has started to move backwards. Then I will make sure I have a good grasp of the material, and I will lift the foot just enough to where I can see the needle, and I will cut that section in half. I will move the material where I want the needle to be. It's ever so little bit of movement. You don't need that much. Get the needle to where I want it. Don't let any side-to-side or back-to-back action get on there because it can break your needle if it goes through and you happen not to be above that hole and you hit the plate, your needle goes bye-bye. So right there, I'll put my foot back down. I've relocated the needle where I want it. Now, you're going to have to do that on the next stitch as well to get to that exact corner that you want it to be at. So I'll lift it again, same process. Get the needle where I want it. Put the foot back down. Make sure there is no side-to-side movement or anything. And then I will plunge that needle right through there. And then I'll get down to my 730 position where it's locking the foot up and the cam wheel isn't moving. And I will simply turn my material. Let me get to this next corner. When your foot is down and you're just going to town, you're in a hurry. See, I'm at that point where I need to cut this distance in half again. Where was I? Oh, if your foot is down and you need to start taking a turn, only rotate your material when the foot is up. Don't try to rotate when the needle is through it. That will also break your needle. At least bend it. do that same thing again to put the needle right where I want. Right there. Put the foot back down. Now I will turn my material to get in line. Now this is the curve where it's going to be a small slope. It's about the size of a nickel. I wish I could get this thing higher. Yeah, you're not going to be able to see that. I'll show you when it's off. Now this is a small curve. This is a slope or a small curve about the shape of a nickel. But I'm only going to be maybe going a quarter of the way through the. What's this? Question: as I was doing what you are, I broke the needle on a turn, and now new needles hit the plate. Bobbin thread comes out. Huh. Let me think about that for a minute. That shouldn't happen if you replace. Did you replace your needle right afterwards, or? I was doing what you are. I broke the needle on a turn, and now new needles hit the feed plate. You didn't change your position of your plate. The needle bar can't be bent. It wouldn't be able to go up and down. Did your is the needle up on its perch by chance? Like you got your needle channel where it comes through, and there's that little topper where it butts up against as you're going upwards. Is it by any chance? Is there anything either in there, or is that little perch underneath it at all? That doesn't make any sense to me. Or did your lower arm come loose, like the bolts on the bottom? I have heard of that happening to a couple people. That might be something to check. Make sure your position of your arm, because if those come loose, you can move this arm's position just a little, maybe a millimeter in any direction. Needle on turn, and now the needle hits the feed plate. And the thread comes out. Huh. I have also heard of people bending the frame, but that takes like a hammer. That shouldn't do that part. Like that. Let me think about that for a minute. That's going to be an interesting one. I wonder if we do figure it out. I want to know what it was. So going around this corner, I'm going to plunge through, get the foot lifted, adjust where my needle is aiming, or my foot is aiming, so that when I lift up and I come through, the needle is going to land on my line again. And I'll lift up and I will rotate it just a little bit so that it lands on the line again. I am not turning my material with the foot down. I'm only turning it with the foot up. See, right here, I only had enough distance to either cover only about a stitch and a quarter. So I'm going to lift it and make this final stitch to this corner just a little bit longer than the rest of them. And then return to material. Oops. Well, that's going to be awkward. I ran off of the second material there. See, I accidentally ran off of the second thickness there. You didn't hold me up. That's why I do this. I'm trying to help some people out. People ask me questions all the time that I'm like, how can I explain this? I don't know how to explain this. So it's just easier for me to show people if I can. So yeah, I stayed right on the line. These lines weren't perfect in any way. I just took a nail and I scratch, went around that and scratch, yeah, which led me off of the secondary layer there. Something I shouldn't have done. I should have thought of that ahead of time. But see right here in this corner next to my finger, there was, you almost can't even tell, but I had to adjust manually the thickness of those stitches just to make it look more even and land directly on the corner. And then going around this curve right here, I only turned my material when the foot was lifted. That's very important. I actually had a needle shard, little piece shoot off and hit me in the cheek, and it stuck it didn't actually go in, but it did stick a little bit. How did that happen? I never want that to happen again. I'm not wearing glasses, and that could have been bad. So, but there you go. I'll show you the backside. See, it looks like a mess on the back, but I'm not really focusing on the back. I'm just trying to show you how to guide. Get these pieces out of the way so you can actually see it. How did that not get realigned? When you have your material, or when you have no material in it and you bring your needle down, where does it land? Is it off to the left, the right, or does it go into the center until you have material in it and then it no longer goes in the material? Let's see the little orange dots from the other thread. That's funny. Yes, it does look like a mess. So, update on my other machine I'm building. I got a flawed one from Bantam. I convinced him to send me one to the right of the hole. Chris, I think that you should, if it's not the needle alignment getting messed up by that topper in there, that perch, I think that you should check to make sure your bar didn't slide outwards. Because what a few people have asked me about was putting industrial needles in there. Would it be more appropriate to loosen this and move it that way than to gouge out the slot for the needle? I told him you can do whatever you want because I've never done that way. But it is an option. I have loosened them to see how far it goes, and it moves about 1 millimeter, which should put you right off the hole. When I look at mine, I'm about 0.5 millimeter from hitting the plate on my needle. So give that a check. You would be able to tell if you've never disassembled the unit before. You would be able to tell from rust and discoloration on the paint. And if it slid to the left or away from the machine, that should make that more visible. So, any more questions from anybody, please put a comment in there and I'll try to do it again soon. I'm going to start doing more of this just because it's kind of fun. I like helping people. I'm going to be doing a whole YouTube series on factory machines and heavily modified machines. I have my other machine that I got from Bantam. It's going to be a Frankenstein. It's probably going to barely look like the machine. The arms are going to be changed out. It's all going to be a 6-month process. I'm putting a motor on it. I'm putting a stand on it. The motor's going to be basically hidden from it. There's going to be a crankshaft that comes out the back that goes probably a little bit too far, but I want to have plenty of reach just because I can. I have a friend. Not apart at all. Is your drum loose? I doubt it is, because that's pretty obvious if it is, but that could be it. Like, you might give that a check. If you can, Chris, private message me a small video clip of it, of where the needle is hitting in your machine and how the parts are flowing, and let me see if I can spot it. No. No to what? Oh, the drum. Yeah. But yeah, send me a personal message or something like that. Maybe I can spot it from there. That's a new one on me. But my other machine, I'm gonna change out the bars. I'm gonna hand make some, and it's gonna be kind of stupid. I am also developing a way to have a foot pedal that operates the foot, and isn't a ton of crazy gadgets. It's going to be quite small, and it should work pretty good. All right, Chris, I'll look forward to it. I'll watch for it for sure. Hope I can help you out, man. That's a pain in the ass right there. I'm also going to be making a line of plates to do different things. I kind of one of my friends moved his machine shop closer to me, and he said I can use it as long as I don't break anything. So I'm gonna go with that. I'm gonna make some cranks. I'm gonna develop the system for the foot pedal, or a foot pedal driven walking foot, and some new plates. Yes, I did. I ground them flat, and right here in the tip, I ground a small channel right there in the center. I should have cut that center out. I just haven't done it yet. I have 5 or 6 more feet that I'm gonna be messing around with, but cutting out that center piece, grinding it out so it forks, I should have done that. I'm gonna do that to this and just haven't. But once I ground those flush, I have no marks. I haven't had any marks in forever. I have had too much tension and it's crushed material, but that's easily adjustable, and that's my fault. Then I painted it. I put bigger headed screws in here so I can use a bigger Phillips on it. I should have went with Allen, but I didn't because I couldn't find any with the right thread at the time. But I painted it green to match the machine, and then I dipped it in stuff called Tool Magic. It's a rubber coating. There's a lot of different options that does the same thing, but this stuff, it holds on really tight. But if you want it off, it won't take anything with it. So if I go to scratch this off, the Tool Magic, the green paint won't scratch with it. It will let go. But this stuff is very grippy. It's designed for electricians that they dip the tips of their pliers into, so to make sure that they're not conducting electricity or anything like that. It's what it's meant for. But they also provides quite a good grip. I got it on Amazon. It was like $12. And it's a bottle. It's like 4 or 5 ounces. It's like a jar. You put the cap off and you just dip your things in there, and then you let it sit for like 12 hours. So it works pretty good. I highly recommend that kind of stuff. Or there's all kinds of plasti dips and stuff like that work just as good. This is just the stuff that I went with. The tensioners. I don't know if a few people actually asked me about this. My tensioners, I relocated them. I had one right here and the one right here right next to it, and I didn't like that, so I tried moving this over here and there. I ended up just putting it. I actually broke my first tensioner because I was being too careless, and I just put it with a bolt onto the bird perch here and through one of those little holes, and then I angled this one just a little bit. When I'm using 138 thread, I like to go through both tensioners, but with almost no tension on them, just to keep the tension more even. It doesn't always work, depending on the material. Like I just did a mask, and that was miserable. That I could not get the tension correct. I had to cut the thread out of it like 5 times. It was really frustrating me. When I'm running a 69 thread, I only use this one, and I crank it down about 3 turns, and it flows just fine. It's dirty. I use lithium grease for the slide right here, and on the wheels and the cam, and on the cams on the back of the shaft. For the pivot points up here on the rockers, and the needle bar, the top of the needle bar, I use 3-in-1 oil, and that works just fine. Again, the squeaking you guys heard was the Speedy Stitcher. It's just a bolt going through a piece of wood, nice and loud. I had like 4 of these things, so I sacrificed one. So that's it, I think, for tonight. Chris, I will watch for that video. I want to see that. I'm curious to see what the solution for that will end up being, and what actually happened. Yeah, that's it for tonight. Oh, keep them clean. They like to rest. Good night, guys. Oh, hey, no problem, Jesse. I've been to Corpus Christi. It's a pretty place. Have a good day, guys. Or good night, and good day tomorrow. How about that? Later.